A very good morning to all the participants. Once again, I welcome you for the sixth session of the sixth week on writing research paper discussion and conclusion of the course on writing and publishing research paper. I hope you all had a wonderful week. In the last session, we had a detailed discussion on the research paper body writing. We saw some examples. Then we discussed how to write the results section of the research paper along with the purpose and the structure of this result section. We also noted some important components of the result section, and these components are like text, table, figures, which includes charts or graphs, bar charts. In this session, we will continue with our most important part of the research paper, which is generally written after the result section, that is the discussion section, which includes interpretation of the results. We will consider 2-3 cases for understanding how to write this part of the research paper. Apart from this, we will also discuss the most important part, that is conclusion of the research paper. In the third session, we saw how to write authors and author affiliations. Also, we learned whom to consider as an author when we are listing authors and whose name is to be included in the acknowledgement. In this session, we will learn some more points about the acknowledgement, and also we will see what is to be included under the heading of appendix and nomenclature. So let us begin. Before starting today's session, let us take the review of the assignments and quiz submitted in the last week. In the last session, we had covered examples of method section or research paper body writing, and from that we have noted some important points to be considered while writing it. Also, we covered some significant points about the result section of the research paper, like the purpose of that result section, then what should be the structure of result section, what are the different components, and some don'ts for the same. That also we discussed last time. And then the facts related to the tables and figures in the result sections are also deliberated. Based on the last session, a quiz was circulated for again 10 marks. 30 participants as usual have completed the quiz. I once again appeal to everyone to attempt a quiz before the deadline. Like quiz 5, assignment 4 is also completed by very few participants, 11 participants. I have assessed all the assignments. I have given comments and remarks to almost everyone who had submitted the assignment 4. If you want some more specific inputs on those assignments, you can write to me on my email ID. As far as assignment 5 is concerned, I will start it checking from today or tomorrow, and I will provide comments on that part as well. I hope you will submit it. Assignment 5 had the questions like write down the introduction of your results section. So how to write the introduction of results section, that we have seen last time. Draw a figure or chart for the result that you have obtained through some experiment or through some data, and then correspondingly write the description of it. Do not interpret, because interpretation will happen in the discussion section. It is just description of the figure, and ensure that the figure is self-explanatory. That means y-axis, x-axis, and other parameters in the figures are clearly visible, and one can understand what the figure is telling about. In the same way, you can draw a table for your result, and correspondingly you can write the text description of the table. Again, do not interpret the table. Table should be self-explanatory. So as far as participants are concerned, only 2 participants have completed the assignment 6. I request all of you to complete as early as possible. You need to write description of one figure, one table, and introduction of the result section. Hardly it will be around if I count, it will be around 150 words. 50 words for figure, 50 words for table, and 50 words for introduction of the result section. So I request everyone to complete this assignment. Once again, I would like to restate the purpose of this course. The purpose is that you should have your paper at the end of this course with you, which is camera ready paper, so that you can submit that paper to some journal. That's why we have kept this course only on Sunday and given sufficient time to work on that. So I hope you will complete this assignment. In case of any doubt, clarification, do not hesitate to contact me. Moving ahead, these are the learning outcomes for today's session. At the end of this session, you will be able to write the discussions on the result that you have noted last time. The discussion is the most important part of research paper. Also in this session, you will be able to summarize the research paper as a whole and write the conclusion section. Apart from this, you will be able to write acknowledgement for your research paper depending upon the contribution of others, how others have contributed to your paper. Additionally, we will also understand what is to be written under the heading of appendix and nomenclature. So please be with me to learn all these things. Moving ahead, this is the outline of today's presentation. Here in this session of week 6, once again I will present the slides of meaning of scientific research paper and typical structure of research paper at the beginning to establish a link between this and the earlier sessions. In this session, we will understand the purpose and the structure of discussion section of the research paper. The discussion section is the section where we interpret the results and draw inferences. This interpretation of the results is the most significant part of the research paper. The editors or editor-in-chief finding interest in our paper will read this discussion section thoroughly, and then he or she will decide whether to send this paper to the reviewers or not. So it must be written with utmost care. After that, from reader's point of view, the most vital part of the research paper is the conclusion. This section should also be written with very much care. Thereafter, we will see how to put acknowledgement, appendix, and nomenclature in the paper. So let us begin. This is the slide defining research paper. As already we have seen it, we'll skip and we'll move ahead. Organization of a scientific research paper. On this slide, content of the research paper, that is title, author, abstract, keywords, introduction, methods or methodology, results, discussions, conclusion, references, acknowledgement, appendix, biographies, nomenclature are presented. Out of this, we will be talking about the discussion section. Then we will talk about conclusion, acknowledgement, and nomenclature, because already we have talked about title, author, introduction, research paper body, and results. So when we talk about discussion, conclusion, and appendix, we just need to note down some of the points, important points. The discussion section is one of the most difficult section to be written in the manuscript. So after result section, the discussion section, which is written, is the most challenging part to write. The discussion provides the value to the paper. It increases the academic weight of the paper and compares the work of author with other scientists or other researchers. The discussion should deal with interpretation of results without repeating information that already has been presented under the result section. That is when the description is given in the result section, don't repeat that description in the discussion part. Just interpret the result. That means whether the findings that you have obtained are similar or consistent with some other studies, or they are dissimilar or having some differences with other researchers, that you need to point out, and how they are different or how they are similar, that also you need to point out. The discussion should review how the study or the observation add value to the current scientific literature. It should also offer the explanation of the findings, compare the findings with other literatures, and discuss the limitations. Discussion usually ends with the summary of the statements. Another part that we will be discussing today is the conclusion. The overall conclusion of the research paper stated in this part, in this section, is the overall conclusion that we write. Direction of the future work can also be pointed out in the conclusion section. Acknowledgement is nothing but saying thanks to funding agencies or institution or laboratory or colleagues or scientists, technicians who have helped you in constructing your manuscript. Appendix is where we include the extra information required for the paper for enhancing the understanding of readers. This can include methods, analysis, experiments, additional data, mathematical derivations, or design, which is not included in the actual methods part or the research paper body, but you can include in the appendix. And nomenclature are nothing but the notation, symbols, or subscripts, superscripts used in the manuscript. So all these points we will discuss in more detail in this session. So let us first start with the discussion section. The discussion section is the most important and at the same time challenging component to write in the scientific manuscript. The discussion section should be written as if you are telling some story to the reader, that is how the results are meaningful. But it should be kept in mind when you are writing discussion section. It should be kept in mind that it should be short, concise, and pertinent. Pertinent means relevant to whatever results that you have presented in the result section. That relevance should be established between the result section and discussion section. Having a strong discussion in the research paper is very critical for successful research writing. It is in this section the author explains why their findings are very important, why their findings are very significant. You know, the readers, those who are going for the shallow reading, as last time I told you, shallow reading, deep reading, and critical reading. So those who go for shallow reading, they will read the title, abstract, keywords, and then they will read the figures, text, figures, tables, right? And after that, they will read the conclusion. They will skip the literature review, methodology, result section, but they will read discussion and the conclusion to get some more idea about it. Sometimes author write too much about their discussion. So it is best to focus on the most important or the interesting aspect of the investigation. So otherwise people go on writing unnecessarily. So you need to be very much focused about what is to be included, what part is very important or what part is very significant in writing the discussion. Now some journals will request the discussion because in many papers you will find results and discussion as one heading or one section, results and discussion as a combined section. Or sometimes there can be a result section and discussion section separately, where in the discussion section you can include a conclusion also. So you will not have any conclusion for that paper. right? So you can have either results and discussion as one section, or conclusion at second section, or you can have result section separately, discussion and conclusion section combined, no conclusion in that. And in the third case, you can have all the three sections separate, results, discussion and conclusion. So depending upon the type of journal for which you are submitting, it may vary. So it is always better to refer to the guidelines of the journal where you are submitting your manuscript. So this should be noted. So as far as the purpose of this section is considered, so purpose means what is the intent, why written. So purpose is to analyze and explain the meaning of the results to the readers, to the other researchers, those who are working on the same topic, same area. To describe, another purpose is to describe the new information generated by the study, whatever study you have carried out, investigation you have carried out. So to describe that new information, that is another purpose. To explain the significance of the knowledge gained during the study. To provide recommendations for the future research, because in this case, in this part, you write down whatever investigations you have done, but at the same time you can also point out what is the future scope. So that is one more purpose of writing discussion section. Purpose is also to interpret and describe the significance of your findings or results. Then another purpose is to explain any new understanding or fresh insight about the problem after you have considered all your findings. So anything new that you have identified. So generally the new research dimensions are found out through this discussion section. The discussion of the results will always connect to the introduction part of your research paper. So what we write in the introduction, if you recall, in the introduction we write the motivation and background at the beginning in the first paragraph. Second paragraph we write down the literature survey, literature review, identify the gap. In the third paragraph we see how we can fill that gap with our research and what is the intent of our research, that is what is problem and how that problem we are going to solve, and then the organization of the paper. So discussion section of the result will always connect to the introduction of your research paper or the hypothesis that you have presented in the literature review or reviewed by some other literatures. But it does not simply repeat the rearrangement of the introduction. That means that same part is not copied here, because here we are interpreting the results and those interpretations should match with the or should be complementary with the introduction part of your research paper. The discussion section should always explain how your study has moved the reader's understanding of the research problem forward one step ahead from where you left them in the introduction. So that is actually the connecting link between the introduction and your discussion. So journey should start from the end of the introduction section to the outcome, what exactly you are finding out, and that should go through the discussion section. That should go through the discussion section. So this is what is the purpose of your discussion section. The discussion section is often considered the most important part of the research paper because there are several reasons behind that. So what are these reasons that we will see? So most important part of the research paper because it most effectively demonstrates the researching ability of the researcher. As earlier in the very first session we have seen that what are the skills that are required for a researcher. So this section particularly demonstrates the ability of author as a researcher. How good researcher is the author, that is demonstrated through this section. In what sense? How critically he can think, right, about an issue, to develop some creative solutions to the problem based on the findings. So problem is already communicated in the introduction part, but how creative he is in proposing the solution is described in this discussion section. And to formulate a deeper and more profound understanding of the research problem that you are studying. So these are the skills that you need to demonstrate through this section. The discussion section is where you explore the hidden meaning, the meaning which is not clear, or underlying meaning of your research. Its possible implications, in other areas of study, or we can say that improvements, whatever study we have carried out, is it giving some improvement to the earlier study that is made by other researchers? That you need to point out. In this section, again, where you need to present the importance of your study and how it may be able to contribute to the existing stock of knowledge, or how it is contributing to filling the research gap or existing gap in the field or in the area of interest. If appropriate, the discussion section is also where you state the findings from your study relevant, revealed new gaps. So if new research area is pointed out through this, that is also a good part of this section. The new research area which is not already exposed or explored by any other researcher. So this part of the paper is where you can engage yourself in creative thinking about issues through you can say proof-based or evidence-based interpretation of the findings. So whatever proofs or whatever results that you have got, on the basis of those results you are going to interpret, you are going to give your discussion on those results, and this is what is called as engaging yourself in critical thinking about the issue. So this is the importance of the discussion section. This is the importance of the discussion section. Now let us see the structure of discussion section. As far as research papers are concerned, there are no specific guidelines what is to be there, but we have some points under which we can construct or we can structure our discussion section. Again, I suggest everyone to refer the guidelines of the particular journal when you are writing the discussion, whether it is to be combined with the result section, or whether it is to be combined with the conclusion section, or whether it is to be written separately. That I suggest you to refer the guidelines for the particular journal. So generally 5 to 7 paragraphs is a typical length when results and discussions are written combinedly. Maybe 3 to 4 paragraphs when the discussion section is written separately. 300 to 500 words if you consider in terms of words, and ideally it will span around 1/3 of your paper. Total number of pages, if you consider 1/3 of your part, results and discussion section I'm talking about, can be considered here. Author can express the opinions and interpretations of the result, but the focus should be on any innovative finding in your work and their implications for the future work. How this can be used for further work, extension of that or generalization of that, that should be focused in the discussion section. That should be focused in the discussion section. Generally, we can have the first paragraph as the introduction of the discussion section. Then we can have subsequent paragraphs. These subsequent paragraphs can be based on or can be for each figure or each table where you interpret that particular figure, table or text, figure, table or graph, chart. Knowledge gap is identified and how that knowledge, how your results and interpretation are filling that gap, that you need to find out, that you need to write there. Combinedly, you can write the limitation of your studies. Also, combinedly, you can write the strength of your investigation, of your study, of your method, approach, algorithm, and future directions that can also be pointed out here. If you are pointing out future direction here, don't point out these in the conclusion section, because conclusion section also we can write the future direction. But if you are pointing out here in this discussion section, then there is no need to point out it in the conclusion section. So the first paragraph of the discussion summarizes the results of the study. This paragraph should be very clear, concise, and unambiguous. It can start with the few introductory sentences to restate or again state the rationale or the basis of the study that you are carrying out. But then subsequent sentences should focus on whether the question asked in the introduction section is answered or not by the results that you can point out here. Briefly, you can reiterate the research problem that you are investigating and method you use to investigate them. Then move quickly to describe the major findings of your study. You should write a direct declarative statement that you can write about your particular study or results. After this slide, I will show you how it is written in the different research papers. I will show you that. If you talk about subsequent paragraphs, then in the subsequent paragraphs of the discussion section, you can interpret results for the readers and express your opinions. But you need to be sure to explicitly outline the knowledge gap that your research feels the existing knowledge gap, or explain how your result fill that gap. That you need to focus here. It is also a good idea to discuss whether your results support the existing research or contrast the earlier findings. That also you can point out. If the results are not similar, then you need to explain why these are not similar. Explain the implications of the finding and suggestions for the future work are also discussed in these paragraphs, subsequent paragraphs. So if we talk about knowledge gap particularly, the knowledge gap is briefly discussed in the introduction section to justify your study. But this gap is elaborated upon in more detail in the discussion section to set the stage or to clear the background for your study by presenting your results and findings. This section can be started by explaining the result for similar studies in the past. You can also discuss, more importantly, you can also discuss the unanswered questions from the previous studies. Then you need to explain the results. If the result section and the discussion section are combined, then you can explain the results, compare your results and findings with the similar studies performed by others. If your results contrast the finding from the previous studies, explain your understanding of reason. That means why they are contrasting, why they are having different results than the others. Because no study, whatever we carried out, is so novel or possess such a restricted, because there are some limitations, there are some problems. So that you need to adapt. Discussion section should relate your study finding to those of other studies, particularly if the questions raised by the previous studies served as the motivation for your study. If you are starting your research which is motivated by the problem found out by other researcher, in that case it is more relevant to say that how your findings are filling that particular gap. So that is the most challenging part. That's why I said result section is most challenging part to write. So after that, you also need to explain if some unexpected results you are getting and interpret them. Then you also need to interpret the unexpected results that are not you feel that those are not good for your research, but you need to interpret them, why exactly these results are appearing, how they are coming, and what they mean. That also should be explained, because it's better to explain the limitations on our own, rather it is to be identified by the other researchers, other readers, or reviewers. So it's very important. Then if we talk about limitations, the value of manuscript is enhanced, increased by showing the weakness of the study. So limitations you can identify, there is no doubt, there is nothing, there is no need to feel low when you are identifying some limitations, but it's good to identify the limitations. And every study has some limitations. It's not that every study is foolproof. There are some limitations. Address the major limitations of your study and the implications of those limitations. So what will happen with these limitations? So that you can just point out there. The author should acknowledge the weaknesses and limitations of their research than the other readers or researchers or the reviewers expose them after the submission. So it's better to find out the limitations. You can inform the readers about the limitation and give suggestions for the modification of the. So in case there are some limitations, in fact, those limitations can be pointed out as the future scope. So if you say that the limitations of these study are so and so, but improving these limitations and going ahead can be the future scope. So it's like identifying the SWOT analysis: strength, weakness, opportunities, and challenges. So out of that, you need to find out the challenges. So that way you can write limitations. So it is not just writing the limitations, it is also the way of pointing out the future scope. So firstly, and perhaps most obviously, basic science research always has a limitation. So basic science or engineering also has some limitations, because those are carried out under some constrained environment in the laboratory. And when we go for the real-time implementation or the extension of the results, obviously there will be some limitations, there will be some problems. So it's better to identify them at this moment. So if somebody has done some simulation work, you can just state that this is the simulation study. When we go for the real-time implementation, there may be some problems that we need to face. So that you can point out as a limitation. Then it is when we talk about strength, it is very important to emphasize the strength of your study. So surely you should write what are the strengths for your study. Advantages already we are writing in the methods part, or in the main research body, research paper body. That there also we are pointing out advantages, but those are the advantages of that particular method. But here the strength of your research is to be particularly mentioned. How effective is the method in terms of numbers, like efficiency is improved by how much, accuracy is improved by how much, or the computation time is reduced, or cost is reduced, something like that. That strength you need to highlight when you compare your result with other researchers. So you need to talk in terms of number. You don't say like considerable improvement or approximate improvement. You talk in terms of numbers, percentage. There are some statistical parameters for every study that you need to consider while highlighting the strength of your study. Then it is important to have the discussion on your further study, or from the discussion you can point out the future scope. As I mentioned, from the limitation you can write down the future scope. But again, if there are few limitations, then you can again point out the future direction based on the further improvements or the generalization of the study, how it can be generalized. You should make recommendations to advance the field based on your results. Your finding may lead to development of new method, or it may go for future study showing novel way to analyze the data or identify new area of research. Although your study may offer important insight about the research problem, other questions related to the problem likely remain unanswered. Moreover, some unanswered questions may have become more focused because of your study. So you should make arrangement, or you should make suggestions for the future work in the discussion section. If it is not pointed in the conclusion section, but if you are pointing it in the conclusion section, then you can skip it here. Again, I just tell you that there can be three different sections: result section, discussion section, and conclusion section. This is one way of writing. There can be two sections: results and discussion as one section and conclusion as second section. There can be again two sections, that is result section separately and conclusion and discussion section as a combined. So depending upon the journal where you are submitting your manuscript, you need to see that, and accordingly you need to write. So because there are some similarities between discussion section and the conclusion section, whereas conclusion is nothing but the summary of the discussion section, and which is about 200 words or less than 200 words. Again, writing conclusion is also very important, that we will discuss once this discussion section is over. So that is what I want to communicate here. There are some important don'ts that we need to consider when we are writing the discussion section. So what are these don'ts? Let me tell you. When we are writing the discussion section, I suggest not to devote or not to write a complete sentence stating the result if it is already stated in the result sections. If you are writing combinedly results and discussion section, then it is okay. But if you are writing discussion section separately, then do not write the complete sentence stating the results. Instead, you can rephrase it in a different way, or add something to it and bridge the gap between the result and the interpretation. For example, although these results are obtained, but these are like this, or these are having some advantages like this, or these are improved, something like that. So this way you can write it. So that means do not restate the results again in the discussion section if they are already discussed in the results section. Then again, as I earlier said, do not recommend or do not go for the future scope if it is to be pointed in the conclusion section. If it is not pointed in the conclusion section, definitely you can write it in the discussion section. But if you are pointing out it in the conclusion section, do not again point out, do not again repeat the words here. So repetition in any form should be avoided in the whole manuscript. Repetition of the introduction in the discussion, or discussion in the results in the discussion, abstract, conclusion, nothing should be repeated. Not a single statement should be repeated as it is. Maybe the meaning should be same, but it should be rephrased in the different way. So repetition should be avoided. Do not introduce new results, those who are not included in the result section in this discussion part. So be aware of making this mistake. Sometimes unknowingly we introduce new results which are not listed in the result section. So that you should avoid. Do not introduce it. And most of the times, in most of the papers which I have seen, use of the first person is done while writing the discussion section, that we have found this, we have got this, like something like that. So instead of that, I suggest write it in the third person. So that is one way. But if you are not able to avoid it, then you can write, but very little use of first person can be done. Otherwise, write it in the third person. So these are some of the don'ts for the discussion section. So if we see the same papers that we have earlier seen in the last session, I will show you what way they have written the discussion. You can see here. I hope my screen is visible to you. We'll go to the discussion section. Now here the title for the discussion section, results and discussion section, is a case study. They are considering the case study, and that is nothing but the results and discussion, because this is the main body or the methods section of the research paper. Again, I will explain you the title: power tracking and the state of energy balancing of an energy storage system by distributed control. So again, if we read the title, it is what and how and where. What means power tracking and state of energy balancing, that is what. How is by distributed control, and where is the energy storage system. So this is the title. So two objectives are there, power tracking and state of energy balancing, and these two objectives are achieved by the distributed control in the energy storage system, right? So here I will not go in introduction and anything now. Now this is the problem formulation, that is the methods section. Already we have discussed this last time, what is there in this section. Different scheme and all that, and after that this is the discussion section or results and discussion section, that is the case study. Now this control or whatever algorithm that they have proposed is applied to a case study, and here it is given discussion section. So here they are giving how it is applied. As it is a combined section, results and discussion, they are giving brief here how it is applied. In this section, based on MATLAB, a series of numerical case studies are conducted to examine the performance of proposed distributed control scheme. An ESS consisting of 6 ESUs in the is studied in the following case, and this is given. Now here in section 2, to enable rigorous proof of theorem, the ideal situation is considered. Okay, these are some assumptions and all that. I will not go in that. Now here, after explaining how that experiment is carried out, here they are discussing the results. Results they are discussing for different cases. A case, that means power tracking and state of energy balancing. Then B case, if some abrupt change is, that means disturbance is given, then some reconfiguration is done, what will happen. So four different cases they are considering. This is fourth case, communication delay. So what they are considering, just initial case of tracking, initial objective is achieved here, then disturbance is given here, then some reconfiguration is done, and then again delay is introduced. So in all the cases, what happens to the system, what happens to the algorithm, that is mentioned here with the help of figures. So here what they are doing is, initially they are just observing the power tracking and state of energy balancing. So here you can see the system response is shown in the figure 6. Now figure 6 is this one, where it is. This is figure 6, right? Here figure 6, A, B and C. These are the three figures, sub figures in the figure 6, power tracking and state of energy balancing. So this is given. Now discussion can be explanation of these figures can be given here, how they are obtained. That explanation is given here. In this case, what is considered and how it is obtained, what are the parameters used, that is given here. But the interpretation part of this figure is given here. So the system response is shown in the figure. It can be seen. So what is observed through these figures? What are the interpretation, that is given here. The state of energy balancing has been achieved. This is first interpretation. The power tracking has been fulfilled. The power outcome of ESUs are within the limits and the power loss is 5%. So these are the interpretations of these figures. For all these figures, these are the interpretations. The initial part is results explanation, how they are obtained. This part is nothing but the explanation of the results, but this highlighted yellow part is the interpretation of this particular figure, how it is written. Now second case, what they are doing is they are introducing some disturbance, some change in the system, and what is happening. So again, how that change is introduced, that is given here, explanation, but interpretation is given. It can be observed that state of energy balancing has been successfully kept. The reference power output has been tracked very fast. So figure number 7, if I see figure number 7, see here, this is given here, right? So with P reference minus 10 kW, the power loss in the transmission line is also approximately 5%. So again, this is another interpretation of the figure. So explanation about the figure and interpretation of the figure. These are combined sections. As I said, results and discussion section are combined sections. So this is what is given here. In the similar lines, This is third part, fifth part, transient response and the control gain selection, and then communication delay. So five different cases they have considered, and depending upon they have highlighted the discussion section. So this is the way of writing. I will go for another example. As you can see here. So here we'll go again. I will read the title and I will just give you the clarity. An IMC PID controller with particle swarm optimization algorithm for MSBR core power control. So again here what means the type of controller, IMC PID controller, how is by particle swarm optimization, and where is the where means reactor, nuclear reactor, where it is applied. So this is what how and where is given here. Now here you can see again you can see that some controller is proposed and then that controller is given to the system. Now this is simulation and discussion. This part is results and discussion. So what are the simulations that they have obtained and what are the discussions that are given here? So first case they have considered as the step response of the relative power with or without IMC PID controller. Let me highlight this. Okay. The first response of step response of relative power with or without IMC PID controller. So with controller and without controller. Let us consider that response with controller and without controller. So figure 8. So how it is obtained? Discussion will come later, but the explanation of the figure will come first. Figure number 8. If I go to figure number 8, I can see this is figure number 8. So this is the step response given here, right? This is with controller and this is without controller, right? Relative power change, right? So here it is given. When this input is given, what happens to your power? Right? This input is given, what happens to your power? That is given here. So that explanation is given. How input is applied, at what time, how it is changing, everything is given. Now interpretation you can see here. The power transient step input has a good control effect. It has a good control effect. The system has the characteristics of rapidity, stability, and zero deviation. Rapidity, stability, and zero deviation. This is the interpretation of result in the figure number 8. Figure number 8. How it is going to 1.1. How it is going to 0.1. If we go for second interpretation, figure number 9 and 8. Again, this is the discussion. This is the explanation of the result. How that result is carried out. In what situation it is carried out. And the interpretation, it can be seen that the results with the controller are good, has good anti-interference ability. So this is what is about the interpretation. Then in another case they have considered as load following. Load following, you can see the interpretation. The design IMC PID controller system of the reactor core power can achieve an ideal control effect and track the change of reactor core power well. This shows that the robust performance of the control system is good. So this is interpretation. This is interpretation of that particular result. Okay, we'll see the third example again. We'll see again title. You can see a novel method for voltage sag source location. Objective is to locate the voltage sag source and using machine learning approach. So what and how it's given here. What and how is given here. Let me go to this part. Now here results. Now this is result section. It is written separately. Result section written separately. And this is discussion section, which is again written separately. See here, some introduction is given here. Section 5.1 and 5.4 gives the discussion of the generalized new methods and novel methods based on SVM. Now here they are comparing with some other earlier 9 methods. The comparison between the 9 generalized methods is given here. So every method is given here. That explanation is given here. And what are the advantages, or what are the main points about the method, main conclusions, those are written here. The novel method with RBF kernel and K-fold cross validation can accurately detect the voltage sag source for all types of fault. Accuracy is given. Sorry, not accuracy, 95.24% total cases are given here. So this is nothing but the interpretations for the results. And look at here, they are writing the limitations also. They are also writing the limitations. What are the disadvantages? So this highest effectiveness, has the highest effectiveness in all the cases except at some point it is having less effective, the method is less effective, that is upstream fault. That limitation is mentioned here. Let me go next. Here also I think limitation is mentioned here. On the other hand, another disadvantage of the proposed method is, that is also given here. That is also given here. So these are the interpretations. These are the interpretations about the result section. So this way you can write the discussion section of your paper. This way you can write the discussion section of your paper. I hope this is clear to you. Now we'll move to another part, the conclusion part of the research paper. If we consider the earlier section, let me go here. Some common errors that we generally commit in case of writing the discussion section, I will just list out. Firstly, I suggest resist yourself to repeat the introduction part in the discussion section, because sometimes unknowingly we copy some of the text from the introduction section word to word in this part. From introduction to discussion part, you need to highlight the very important or key points, and then you need to move ahead. As you can see in the last paper that we have seen, they have just highlighted the main contributions in the discussion section. So that you need to strictly follow. Also, this section should not introduce any information that is not directly related to the objective of the paper. It should not introduce any information or any result that is not directly related to the objective of your paper. You need to keep in mind the objective of your paper every time. Once you begin the discussion of your results, do not again continue to report the data, especially do not report the new data or new information or new figure. This should have already been done in your result section, and it can distract from the interpretations of your finding. Also it can be it can distract from the argument that you make for the significance of your research. The purpose of your paper is to present your work to the world and argue strongly for its significance among the overwhelming weight of research being reported daily, because daily or every day or every moment many papers are being submitted to the journals all over the world and for all the publishers. But in your paper you need to state that your problem is very significant and the results are very important, and it's very important to communicate to the research community. Otherwise community community will face a very big loss. Something like that you need to state. Something like this you need to write there. In short, you have to say that these findings are very significant than any other finding in the world. So that you need to state in this section. But again, I give a word of caution that do not exaggerate your finding. Do not exaggerate means unnecessarily. Do not write too much about your findings. Whatever is relevant, whatever is important, whatever is significant, that you just point out. Just a moment. So in this, you need to be very much specific. And again, I suggest not only this section, but for any section of the research paper, when you are writing, I suggest you to refer to the guidelines of the particular journal. Because for every section of the research paper, there can be specific guidelines from the journal that you need to consider. So this is my suggestion for this discussion section. Moving ahead with the conclusion. Of research paper, conclusion section of the research paper. Again, we need to understand the purpose of this. Please note that I will be telling you very important point about the conclusion. If you understand these points today, definitely you will be able to write the conclusion for your paper. You just need to understand or note down few points how to write the conclusion, what to be included in the conclusion. Then you should be definitely able to write down the conclusion for any piece of document, not only this paper, but if you are writing your thesis, if you are writing undergraduate projects, evaluating undergraduate projects or postgraduate projects, these points are equally important there as well. So I will just tell you some or 5 points that you need to consider when you are writing the conclusion. If you pay attention to these 5 points, definitely it will help you. So readers often read the conclusion directly after the abstract. As I said that somebody is looking for some area, suppose yourself also looking for some paper. How we start for searching the paper? We read the title. If the title is impressive, then we read the abstract. And if the abstract is appealing, then we directly read the conclusion. Right? So conclusion is the most read part of your research paper after the abstract. So if conclusion is very well written, then definitely people will download your paper and then they will read the paper. So readers read the conclusion directly after the abstract. Do not repeat the abstract. So one more important thing that we need to consider here. If the people are reading the abstract and conclusion, then there should not be any similarity in between. Otherwise, sometimes we copy the same sentences from the abstract, because abstract how to write, that we will discuss in the next session. But please remember some points related to the conclusion, so that in the next session we can distinguish how they are different. So do not repeat the text from the abstract in the conclusion. Also avoid restating the problem and the context of the work, but highlight the most significant findings. This is the last paragraph after the discussion section of the scientific manuscript. If they are mixed, that means if discussion and the conclusion are the one is the one section, then summary of that section is the conclusion. For majority of the journals, this is included in the discussion section, or for some of the journals, conclusion is written separately. For our technical papers, scientific papers, conclusion is generally written separately. It's not combined with the discussion part. But again, refer to the guidelines. This paragraph should provide a takeaway message. So what message reader should take, what understanding reader should take from our paper, that should be mentioned here. Just 3-4 sentences can be sufficient for that takeaway message. You can also suggest future experiment or future scope or future extension for your studies. So as far as the purpose of this section is concerned, purpose is to help reader understand why your research should matter to them after they have finished reading the paper. So once the paper is read, then why the findings are important to them, that should be clearly mentioned, or that should the reader should be able to clearly appreciate it through this conclusion section. Another purpose is to remind your readers of the strength and impact of your problem statement and solution, to refocus the reader's attention to the most important points and supporting evidences of your arguments or the proposal or position that you presented in the research paper, and to serve as a basis for continuing the research. That means some new idea generation should happen through this conclusion section. So new topic or new area, new idea should come out of this, that should be highlighted, or offer new approach for the topic. A conclusion is not merely summary of the points of your points or the restatement of your research problem, but it is actually the synthesis of key points. For most of the research papers, a well-developed paragraph is sufficient for conclusion, around 150 to 200 words. That is sufficient. But for some of the papers, you can have 2-3 paragraphs depending upon the length of paper that you are writing. That type of conclusion can also be required, 2-3 paragraphs or 300 words around. But for most of the papers, 150 to 200 words are sufficient for the conclusion. So why conclusion is very much important here? Because a well-written conclusion provides opportunities to you. A well-written conclusion provides opportunities to you to demonstrate your overall understanding of the research problem to the reader. So whatever you have understood, so it provides an opportunity to you, not to the readers. It provides an opportunity to author to demonstrate the understanding gained through this research paper to the readers. So this can include like presenting the last word on the issue you raised in your paper, just as the introduction gives the first impression. So introduction will create the first impression on the reader. The conclusion offers the chance to leave the lasting impression. You can do you can do this by highlighting the key points in your analysis or finding. Another opportunity to you as an author is to summarize your thoughts and convey the same to the larger implications of your study. The conclusion is an opportunity to briefly answer. So what will happen? So what? So what question means what will happen further, by placing the study within the context of the past research about the topic that you have investigated. Further, you can demonstrate the importance of your ideas. Do not be shy in writing. The conclusion offers you a chance to elaborate on the significance of your findings. And one of the most important aspects of the conclusion is to introduce possible new research dimensions or expand ways of thinking about the research problem. This does not refer to introducing new information, but through your findings, what are the different ways, what are the new dimensions that you need to identify here, that you need to point out here. You need to offer new insight. You need to offer new insight, creative approaches for framing the research problem based on the results that you have obtained. that you have obtained. So this is the importance. Now this here comes the most important part, how to structure the conclusion, what should be included in this conclusion. See, first part is restate your research topic. Restate your research topic, restate the problem, summarize the main points, state the significance, and conclude your thoughts. Just 5 points. The first point is restate your research topic is just 1 line. Restate the problem is again another line. That means 2 lines or 2 statements. Summarize the main points, 3 to 4 statements. State the significance, again 3 to 4 statements. And conclude your thought, that can also be 1 statement. So how many statements you will be writing? You will be writing around 12 to 13 statements. That's it. That is the conclusion. What you need to write? State your research problem. Again, I would like to say that this is not the actual. This is not. This is the preferred guideline for writing the conclusion. It's not necessary that you write in the same way. It can be different, but this is the preferred guideline for writing the conclusion. Because if you refer some papers, you may not find some part like restating the problem topic, research topic, that may not be written in the conclusion. Sometimes, depending upon the length and the words, acceptable words in that. So it can be, you can just leave the first point, or you can leave the second point, but third, fourth, and fifth, though these are the very important points that you need to consider while writing the conclusion. But to the safer side, or to give clear understanding, it's better to include all these 5 points. These will add only 2 statements. First statement for the research topic, second statement for the research problem, and then the next part that you will obviously write in the paper. So if you follow this guideline, definitely you will be able to write properly your conclusion section. So when writing your conclusion, you can consider these steps or these guiding steps. First one is restate your research topic. So you your first step when writing your conclusion should be to restate or again state your research topic. Typically 1 sentence can be enough. Don't write too much about it, but you can write 1 statement about it and explain why your topic is important. That's it. In 1 statement you can write, not more than that. This part of your conclusion should be clear, concise, and state only the most important information. State only the most important part of the or most important topic or most important information. Then restate the problem. That means you can again revisit your original problem and you can restate in the different way. Don't copy that statement as it is from the introduction section. The problem statement in your conclusion should be written differently from what you write or what you have written in the introduction. Again, it can be a one sentence. That's enough. Then comes the most important part, that is summarizing the main points, highlights of your paper. You can sum up the main points of your research paper. Provide the solution to the problem. That means first statement is your research topic, second statement is research problem, and then provide the solution to that problem. Then here you need to provide the solution to your problem. It is helpful to read the complete paper 2-3 times to pick out the most relevant fact to be written in this part, that is summarization of the main points. The purpose of summarizing the key points is to remind the readers of the importance of the research topic. So importance of the research topic should be highlighted here. Then significance of the results. So whatever interpretations you can also write here. Again, I forgot to mention, summarize the main points means here you can just summarize the method or the method section, what method section or how it is carried out, what experiment is carried out, what algorithm is proposed, what strategy is adopted, that can be written here. Summarize the main points. And here in the significance of the results, that means interpretation, you need to write, you don't have to explain the results, but you need to write interpretations very precisely and briefly. After discussion, the main point of your argument, you can present the significance of these points. For instance, after stating the main point you made in your argument, you might discuss how the impact of your topic affect a specific outcome. Likewise, you might present the results of studies of other findings that can help add emphasis to how you present the significance of your information. So interpretations are generally written here. So first point is research topic, one statement. Second point is problem statement, one statement. Third is solution to that problem statement, how you are providing the solution, that problem statement, that method section, algorithm, strategy, approach that you are adopting. Then fourth is what are the interpretations of your result, what are the results and what are the interpretations that you need to write. And last is the conclude your thought. So that means here you need to say that although you are finishing your paper, but there is something that extra can be done. That means you can say that picture abhi baki hai mere dost, something is like that. So as you finish up your conclusion, you might create a call for action or pose an idea that get your readers thinking further about your argument. This is not the end, there is something that can be done extra in this. You might also use this sentence to address any question that was left unanswered in your body or the research paper. So limitation, you can highlight limitation can be used or limitations can be overcome by proposing so and so algorithm. So that can be the extension or future work for this. So that is to be mentioned here. So these 5 points you need to consider, keep in mind when you are writing the conclusion. First is, again I repeat, is the research topic, one statement, research problem. Again, the one statement you can write here. Solution to that problem you can write in 3-4 sentences. What solution you have proposed to that particular problem. Then what is the result and what are the interpretation as the fourth part of your conclusion. Again 3-4 statements, and conclude your thoughts. That is one more statement. So 12 to 15 maximum statements can be included here. 150 to 200 words. You just point out these 5 steps. Sometimes you can skip the first step, you can directly start from the second step. Please note that at least you should consider second to fifth step when you are writing the conclusion. So I hope this is very clear to you, and this will really help you to write down the conclusion for your paper. Again we will consider the same papers that we have considered for understanding how the discussion section is written, how the figures are interpreted. We will consider the same papers here, and I will show you how they have written the conclusion, what points they have written for the conclusion. So here, this is the conclusion section. In this paper, the power control problem is investigated for ESS consisting of multiple ESUs. See, this is first statement. What is the problem? Problem is listed here, research problem. And this is to achieve simultaneous power tracking of OSC balancing, a distributed control scheme is proposed. So how that problem is solved is given here. That is second part of the so if you see here, that second part, how solution is provided is given here, and what are the interpretations, this is given here. In contrast to centralized control, the proposed control law relies on distributed communication network, allows the online switch on switch off operation of ESU, and can maintain the maximum power output capacity of ESS. So this is given here. Though it is shown by numerical simulation that the proposed control scheme works well without these assumptions, it is still meaningful to theoretically show the robustness and resiliency of the proposed control scheme. See here, future work. This last statement you read here. Although this much is done, but still there is something to do that is mentioned here. So look at the structure of the conclusion. What is included? Problem, how that problem is solved, solution, what are the significant results, and what is the future scope here. That is mentioned here. Again, I will go to the same paper that we have discussed for the discussion part, and I will show you conclusion here. So here you can see conclusion. As a unique control system structure, IMC originated from the process control and has been successfully applied. So it is about explaining the area, topic, IMC control. As I said, the first point in writing the conclusion, talk about the topic, restate the topic. Its design idea is to parallelize the object model with the actual object, approximate the dynamic inversion of the model by the controller, and take the inverse of the minimum phase part of the model and model for a single variable system and add to this. So this is about the method section. Then low pass filter is used for that and everything. So in this paper, a linear model. So what is done in this paper, and the simulation results show that interpretation of the results. Simulation results show that the IMC PID controller for nuclear reactor is an effective way interpretation. So future scope is not pointed here, but it's better to point out. It's better to point out. If you consider all those points, definitely you will be able to write very effective and appealing conclusion for the readers. Again, let us see this part, this paper. Conclusion. So this is conclusion. This paper has evaluated 32 different methods for detecting voltage sag source. So what is the problem is mentioned here. Consider for detecting voltage sag sources. So problem is mentioned here, and here again I will not go in this complete description, but here you can see future scope. The results finally provide a comprehensive background to find out future work in the field and select the most effective method for voltage sag source location. So again, future scope is pointed here. So this way, if you consider these guidelines, definitely you will be able to write down the conclusion, because most of the times we have a confusion in writing conclusion and abstract. We repeat the same in different words, but that should be avoided. Again, I will tell you in the next session how to write abstract in the same way. There are also 5 things that we need to consider when we are writing the abstract. So this is about the conclusion. I hope this is very clear to you. The next part that I would like to discuss here is acknowledgement. Acknowledgement or acknowledging the assistance and contribution establish your integrity as a researcher as well as your connections and collaborations. Acknowledgement is nothing but saying thanks. Thanks to whom? Thanks to funding agency for the financial support that they have provided to you for carrying out your experiment or study or investigation. Saying thanks to your colleagues, scientists or technicians, those who have helped you in collecting data or arranging experiments or some other help where they are not actually involved in knowledge creation. That you can just point out in the acknowledgement section. Then also you can say thanks to the department or the lab where you have carried out the experiment. If your department is not having that facility, then you can just say that thank you. Uh, uh, Authors would like to express thanks to department of so and so for providing the facilities to carry out the experiment. You can also say thanks to uh, library if you are referring to some research papers, textbooks, or some raw material papers. Then you can say thanks to reviewers, but not directly saying thanks. You can say unknown reviewers, those who have reviewed your paper, for improving the quality of your paper. You can point out, or you can say thanks to them. Writing, when we are writing the acknowledgement, it's better to write uh, again in the third person. You can refer to the guidelines of the particular journal. Like authors express their sincere thanks to BCUD, Pune University, for providing funds to carry out the experiment. Something like that you can write. Maintaining formal language and complete sentence is a very good way of writing the acknowledgement. Professional tone to give specific and thorough information about the contribution and uh, convey the gratitude. That means in what way they have contributed. Like authors express their sincere thanks to Professor so and so for critically reviewing the results and giving useful comments to improve the quality of paper. Something like that. If some professor has given some assistance to you, so that way clearly mention what kind of help is given. Appropriately expressing respect and appreciation for each contribution and uh, avoiding excessive gratefulness. That is also a way of writing conclusion. It is important to note this in writing the acknowledgement. Using the complete and preferred names format for individuals, funding agencies, libraries, businesses, and other organizations is a general way adopted. You can just write down the complete name. So when I say BCUD, you can write the full form, right? Just don't write BCUD or AICT. You can completely write down All India Technical. That means whatever is the full form of funding agency, that you can write down there instead of writing the short form, right? That is the way of writing. Then again refer to the guidelines, because sometimes the funding agencies are mentioned separately in the manuscript and the acknowledgement for others is written separately. So funding agencies are referred or acknowledged under different head, mainly on the first part or first page of the paper, where you can see at the bottom, thanks to funding agencies. So that is again the way of writing the acknowledgement. So if I want to show you, I don't know whether acknowledgement is given in this paper or not, but let me see. This is not given here, but acknowledgement is not given in this paper. There is no acknowledgement here, maybe in this paper. Here you can see. Here you can see. The authors would like to thank anonymous reviewers for their valuable comments. The work is supported in parts by excellent youth project of scientific research funds of Human Provincial Educational Department. Grant number, again I forgot to tell you, you need to write the grant number. Don't just write the funding agency name. What is the grant number that you have received? That is very important to write here. And the National Natural Science Foundation of Human Provenance, again grant number. Authors would like to show their appreciation to NEAL, again full form is given here, team, for its support and contribution to the research. So this way you can write the acknowledgement. Again, let me see here in this paper if it is given. Acknowledgement here you can see. Roberto C. Libergne acknowledges, that means the author. You can see the author. This third author, maybe the corresponding author. Acknowledges the grant received from this funding agency, Brazil. Also, the authors would like to thank Dr. Amir, a member of Computer Engineering Department in Bu Ali Sina University. Like this way you can acknowledge. This way you can acknowledge it. So this is what is the acknowledgement. Then there is one more part, that is appendix in the research paper. So appendix is the section which is not compulsory to write, but you can write if there is a supplementary material, supplementary data, and that you feel is essential to your text, that can be included in the appendix. Essential part of the text, but which may provide a more comprehensive understanding of the research problem. Please note that even if the appendix is removed from the paper, the value should not be degraded, or the weight of that research contribution should not be degraded. That is an additional information to improve the understanding of the readers. That is only for improving the understanding of the readers. A separate appendix should be used for each distinct topic. Suppose you have 2 or 3 appendices, A, B, C. You can write appendix A, appendix B. Then these should be written separately. No need to combine them. Appendices may include some of the following. So what is included in the appendix? It can be a mathematical derivation or some extra experiments, additional data, supporting evidences, raw data, complementary facts, sample calculations or technical figures, graphs, tables, data sheet, any research instruments that you have used, methods, design, or proof of some theorem that is not included in the main, that you can include in the appendix. Again, you can refer to the guidelines for particular journal how to include the appendix, whether it is to be included after the acknowledgement, before the references, or after the conclusion. So how to put or where to put the appendix, that you can refer for the guidelines for particular journal. Appendices may proceed or follow your list of references. So where to place the appendix, that can vary as per the guidelines of any particular journal. The order they presented is directed by the order they are mentioned. Suppose you have 2 appendices, appendix A, appendix B. So those should be written in the sequence of citing in the paper. So that means appendix A should be cited first in the paper and then appendix B. So that sequence should be written properly, same order as that of the text where they are appearing in the paper. Heading you can write as appendix A, appendix 1, or appendix B, appendix 2, depending upon the type of journal where you are submitting it. So these guidelines can be considered, but again, please note that there is nothing compulsory to write appendix for any paper. If you feel that this data will enhance the understanding of reader, then you can provide it as appendix. Otherwise, there is no need to write it. So even if appendix is removed, the technical value of the paper should remain same. Technical value of the paper should remain same. So that is about the appendix. And then the part which is left for today's discussion is the nomenclature. So nomenclature is again including abbreviations, notations, symbols. So if the paper is having too much abbreviations, you can just list out them. Notations mean mathematical notations that you can list out here. Symbols can be Greek letters, Greek symbols if you are using them. Subscript, superscript when you are writing mathematical text, that time you need to keep in mind. So this is it is always better to write separate nomenclature instead of creating any confusion for the readers. If you write it separately, obviously that will be a good way of writing. And again, these should be written alphabetically. Abbreviations, if you are listing, it's better to write alphabetical abbreviations, alphabetical notations starting from A to Z. Again, small notations like small s, small b, what they are indicating in the text, that should be written first, small letters and then capital letters and then Greek letters. So that is the general way of writing. Again, you can refer to the guidelines for particular journal, how they are writing it, how they are listing the notations, that you can see there, and accordingly you can write. So abbreviations, notations, symbols, subscripts, superscripts to be written alphabetically, small letters first, capital letters later, and Greek letters. So this way you can list out nomenclatures. So again, you can refer to the guidelines for particular journal, or you can refer to many papers that those are related to your topic. So that can be done. So here we have come to an end of today's session. Summarizing today's session, we have seen how to interpret results, how to write conclusion, what to be included in the acknowledgement section, and appendix and nomenclature. We have discussed this with the examples in the research paper. Apart from that, we have seen the standard way or guidelines to write all these sections. Next week, we will consider. So as far as the key components of the research paper are concerned, the most important part is still left, and that most important part is the abstract. We'll devote next session for abstract. Next session we will start with the references, and then we will cover it or cover the abstract. The abstract is the most important part of the research paper because it is the most read part of your research paper after the title. In short, it is written at the end, but it is read at the first. It is written at the end of the paper. Once your paper is ready, that time you write the abstract, but it is the first read part of your paper. So writing this part is very crucial, and we will learn how to write abstract next time. Apart from that, we will cover keywords, biographies, and how to avoid plagiarism. If time permits, we will see how to write covering letter for the particular journal, what is to be included in the covering letter. So that will finish our writing part, and then we will devote the last session on the publishing part, publishing of the research paper. Actually, we should write in such a way the minimum content is copied from any other paper. So avoiding plagiarism, that is again a way of writing, good way of writing the paper. So there is no need to go for checking our manuscript for plagiarism with any other already existing plagiarism checker. So if we consider some points, definitely we can avoid the plagiarism. So these are the contents for the next week. So I appeal everyone not to miss the next session. These are some of the references which I have used for constructing the today's session. These are very limited. There is a huge study material available on writing and publishing research paper. These are some selective or representative references. So again, coming back to the assignment and quiz for this session 6. The quiz for this session will again have 10 marks MCQ type questions, and the assignment is having 3 questions. For these 3 questions, you will have to submit the typed answers either in the PDF file or the Word file in the same way as that of the assignment number 5. If you are facing any problem in uploading the assignment, please do write to us. We'll help you. Now onwards, we are left with only 2 assignments or 2 sessions. The assignment for the last session, that is session number 8, will be to submit your complete paper or camera ready paper, and that is to be completed by 15th November. So if I say 15th November, you have almost 1 month time, and within that 1 month you need to complete your paper. The assignment will include submission to the final journal, camera ready paper, and submission to the final journal. So you have around that 1 month. Be ready for that. You already have completed the introduction, methods, and results section. Drafts, I'm not saying the complete papers, but drafts already have been finalized. This week you will be completing your results section and discussion section and conclusion. So again, almost 70% work is finished. Then we have only thus refining the paper. This week you will be completing discussion, conclusion, acknowledgement, and other parts. Next week we will be completing abstract and keywords. So almost 90% work will be finished. So the minimum required components for any particular research paper will be completed, and then you can refine your paper and submit this paper to the journal. So that deadline for submitting paper to the journal and the assignment number 8 is 15th November. Please note that. So you have almost 1 month to complete these activities. Now, as far as this assignment is concerned, you need to write discussion on one figure. Figure can be a graph or chart that you have obtained or you have submitted in the last assignment. Now this time you need to reinterpret this figure. Again, you figure, self-explanatory figure, and write at least 1 or 2 statements about the figure interpretation. Again, you have seen, or we have seen rather, how to interpret the figure. 2-3 statements are enough. That means like 30 to 40 words is enough for the first question. 30 to 40 words with the figure. That is enough. Interpretation I'm asking about. I'm not asking about the explanation of the figure. Explanation already you have submitted in the assignment number 5. If you have not submitted, you can also note down the points for the assignment number 5. It is just the extension of the assignment number 5. In the assignment number 5, you are writing the explanation of the figure, explanation of the table, again 30 to 40 words. And in this assignment, you are interpreting the figure or interpreting the table again with the 30 to 40 words. You can refer to the guidelines that we have discussed today, or you can also refer to the guidelines, or you can refer to the research papers that are already published in your research area topic, how they have written. That way you can write the interpretation of the figure, graph, or chart, and also the interpretation of the table. Then the third question is an important question. You need to write the conclusion. So conclusion is you need to consider the 5 points that we have discussed. Restate the topic, problem, then the solution of problem, interpretation of results, and the concluding remark. So this you need to write in the conclusion part. That should not be more than 150 words and not more than 12 to 50 sentences. So with this, you can submit your assignment number 6, and assignment and quiz 6 will be starting this afternoon. You can submit it by tomorrow evening. Assignment you can submit by next Monday. So this is all about the quiz and assignment. And here we have completed our 6th week. If you have any point to discuss, if you want to ask me anything, I'm open for questions. Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope this session was very meaningful to you as far as discussion, conclusion, acknowledgement, appendix, and nomenclatures are concerned. So I'm open for questions. You can ask me. Thank you. Thank you very much.